War doesn't just test muscle, it tests the mind. Before we dive in, make sure you subscribe if you love stories about the untold side of World War II, the human ingenuity, the secret tactics, and the small things that helped ordinary soldiers survive extraordinary situations. Because when the bullets stopped flying, another battle began, the one in the mind. World War II soldiers faced unimaginable psychological strain, endless bombardment, frozen trenches, starvation, and the constant fear of death. Yet somehow, millions of men and women managed to stay focused, functional, and even optimistic. How? Through small, powerful psychological tricks, coping mechanisms, and morale-boosting rituals that made the difference between breaking down and surviving. Here are 7 psychological tactics World War II soldiers used under extreme pressure, many of which are still taught in spirit to modern soldiers today. When everything around them was chaos, soldiers found strength in structure. From polishing boots at dawn to cleaning rifles before bed, these small habits gave them a sense of order, a reminder that they still had control over something. Psychologists now call this micro-control, a technique still used in survival training. In the middle of uncertainty, repeating routines anchored their minds, turning fear into focus. For many, folding a blanket perfectly or shaving in freezing water wasn't just discipline, it was therapy. The darker things got, the more humor became essential. Soldiers created absurd songs, swapped jokes, and named their rifles or helmets. In the face of death, humor wasn't denial, it was defiance. One British soldier famously joked, "If the enemy doesn't kill me, the tea will." It's gallows humor, morbid but powerful. Laughter helped release tension and built instant bonds between men who'd met only weeks before. Military psychiatrists later found that units with the strongest humor cultures often had the lowest psychological breakdown rates. You might think it's superstition, but for soldiers, lucky coins, medals, or trinkets had real psychological power. Carrying something from home, a cross, a ring, a small toy, became a personal lifeline, a tangible link to safety and meaning. Even hardened officers admitted they relied on them. In one diary, a United States paratrooper confessed he couldn't board his plane without touching his lucky silver dollar. Psychologically, it gave him courage, a small ritual that quieted fear when logic couldn't. Back in World War II, soldiers didn't really use the term mental health, but they sure practiced it, even in the trenches. They talked, not necessarily about their feelings, but about everything else under the sun. Jokes, their hometowns, and, the food they miss so much. These conversations, they acted like pressure valves. They turned fear into laughter, grief into memory, and, loneliness into a sense of belonging. Modern military psychologists have a name for this now. They call it peer regulation. The idea is pretty straightforward. Trauma shared is trauma divided. In simple terms, just having someone beside you who really gets it can, save your sanity. When fear peaked before battle, many soldiers closed their eyes and imagined home, walking down a familiar street, eating dinner with family, or lying in their own bed. Commanders encouraged it quietly because it worked. It wasn't escapism. It was psychological conditioning. Visualization reduced anxiety and increased focus. It reminded them why they were fighting and what survival meant. One American pilot said before missions he'd imagine landing, not dying, mentally rehearsing success until it became instinct. In every army, small rituals became sacred. Some soldiers touched the ground before going over the top. Others always stepped with their left foot first, or carried a bullet in their pocket to keep the others away. To outsiders it looked like nonsense, but psychologically it gave chaos meaning, a way to trick the brain into calm. These rituals provided consistency in an environment where nothing else was predictable. They transformed panic into pattern. Perhaps the strongest mental weapon soldiers had was perspective. In the mud, under fire, or freezing in foxholes, they found strange comfort in comparing their suffering to someone else's. "At least we're not in Stalingrad," one British officer wrote during the Italian campaign. That's what keeps us smiling. This mindset, reframing misery as manageable, is still a cornerstone of resilience training today. It's the art of psychological downsizing, shrinking the problem until it feels beatable. Every soldier, consciously or not, needed a reason: patriotism, brotherhood, revenge, survival, or simply the dream of home. As Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl later wrote, "Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how." World War II soldiers didn't have therapy apps or psychologists in the trenches, but they had each other, and an arsenal of invisible mental tools built from hope, humor, and habit. And maybe that's the greatest lesson they left us. Even when the world falls apart, the human mind can still find ways to put itself back together.